Beneath the world's oceans, a silent and high-stakes conflict is quietly intensifying far from the public eye. A dangerous game is unfolding, one that could alter the balance of power for decades to come. Nuclear submarines, machines of unimaginable power and stealth, are on the move, gliding through the depths with missions shrouded in secrecy. The United States has repositioned its fleet not as a drill, but as a direct response to escalating Russian rhetoric and military posturing. This is a calculated signal, echoing through the halls of Washington, Moscow, and beyond, reminding us just how fragile peace can be in a world armed with nuclear weapons. The world holds its breath as superpowers shift their most critical assets, each move scrutinized by allies and adversaries alike. We are witnessing a return to Cold War brinkmanship, with deep-sea maneuvers reflecting rapid shifts in global politics and a renewed sense of urgency. Understanding these submarine movements is crucial. They are more than military maneuvers. They are statements of intent, warnings sent in silence beneath the waves. The US-Russia rivalry has reached a boiling point, with threats and counter-threats replacing dialogue and the risk of miscalculation growing with every passing day. Moving nuclear submarines is one of the loudest statements a nation can make without firing a shot, a show of strength meant to deter and intimidate. As of August 3, 2025, the world watches this underwater ballet with a mix of awe, anxiety, and apprehension, knowing that the stakes have never been higher. The decisions made now in tense rooms and shadowy corridors could shape international relations and the fate of nations for a generation or more. The silent game beneath the waves has begun, and as the world waits for the next move, the outcome remains uncertain, balanced on a knife's edge, deep below the surface. This crisis was sparked by a dramatic and very public clash between two of the world's most influential and controversial figures, setting the stage for a confrontation that would reverberate across the globe. Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president and a key Kremlin insider, issued thinly veiled threats against NATO and the United States, warning of severe and unpredictable consequences for any perceived encroachment on Russian interests. His words were not just rhetoric. They were a clear signal that Moscow was prepared to escalate if pushed. The US response was immediate and uncompromising. Former President Donald Trump, never one to back down from a challenge, issued a direct ultimatum. He promised that any provocation would be met with overwhelming American power, leaving no doubt about the seriousness of the US position. Trump's words cut through the usual diplomatic noise, daring Moscow to test the resolve of the United States. His message was clear. The US would not hesitate to defend its interests, no matter the cost. This standoff immediately raised the stakes on the world stage, putting militaries across multiple continents on high alert. The tension was palpable, as both sides braced for what could come next. In a bold move, Trump then called for decisive action, urging the current administration to mobilize the US submarine fleet as a show of force and readiness. The message was unmistakable. America was prepared to act, not just talk. Within hours, reports began to surface confirming that the US Navy was actively repositioning its Ohio-class submarines, some of the most powerful vessels in the American arsenal, to strategic locations around the globe. Medvedev's threat, Trump's ultimatum, and the sudden movement of submarines combined to create a perfect storm of tension, with the world's attention fixed on every development. The rhetoric of world leaders had quickly transformed into military reality, as forces on both sides prepared for the possibility of escalation. Around the world, news outlets broke into regular programming to cover the unfolding crisis. World leaders watched their screens anxiously as the threat of nuclear weapons being brought into play became all too real. The era of polite warnings and carefully worded statements is over. A new age of strategic signaling and high-stakes brinkmanship has begun, with the world holding its breath to see what happens next. To truly grasp the gravity of this move, we need to look closely at the Ohio-class submarine, a vessel that represents the pinnacle of underwater military engineering and strategic deterrence. These are not just submarines, they are mobile missile silos, forming the most survivable and elusive leg of the US nuclear triad. Their ability to remain hidden beneath the ocean's surface makes them a constant, unpredictable threat to any adversary. Stretching nearly 2 football fields in length and powered by advanced nuclear reactors, these submarines can disappear into the depths for months at a time, silently patrolling the world's oceans, waiting for an order that everyone hopes will never come. Each Ohio-class submarine is armed with up to 20 Trident II D5 ballistic missiles, each one a technological marvel in its own right. And each of these missiles can carry multiple independently targetable nuclear warheads, allowing a single submarine to strike dozens of targets across continents in a matter of minutes. The destructive power contained within a single Ohio-class submarine is staggering. More than all the bombs dropped during World War II combined, concentrated in one stealthy platform. Their stealth is legendary. Special anechoic tiles absorb sonar waves, and their ultra-quiet propulsion systems make them nearly undetectable, even to the most advanced enemy sensors. The crews who operate these submarines are among the Navy's best, highly trained, disciplined, and prepared for the psychological and physical demands of long, isolated patrols beneath the sea. When the United States moves these subs, it's not just about shifting hardware, it's about leveraging unmatched stealth, endurance, and overwhelming firepower to send a clear message to the world. The Ohio-class stands as a symbol of American might and resolve, capable of holding any target at risk from an undisclosed location anywhere on the globe. Their recent repositioning is a stark reminder. Beneath the waves, an overwhelming force stands ready, silent and unseen, ensuring that deterrence is always just below the surface. The US isn't alone in its underwater power play. Russia's Borai-class submarines are the backbone of its nuclear deterrent, replacing aging Soviet-era boats. These advanced vessels are built for stealth, with pump-jet propulsion and reduced noise signatures. Each carries 16 Bulava missiles, each with multiple warheads, enough to inflict catastrophic damage. Russia's doctrine, like America's, relies on these subs for second strike capability. The Borai class operates from protected Arctic and Pacific bases, shielded by ice and secrecy. Russia also fields Yasin-class attack subs, armed with cruise missiles and designed to hunt enemy vessels. The US and Russian fleets are closely matched, each investing heavily to maintain strategic parity. The movement of these assets is a direct, silent conversation between two nuclear powers. Repositioning nuclear submarines isn't about preparing for war, it's strategic communication. In nuclear geopolitics, actions speak louder than words. When an adversary grows aggressive, moving submarines sends a clear message of resolve. For allies, it's reassurance the US nuclear umbrella is real and ready. For adversaries, it's a warning. Tracking these subs is nearly impossible, forcing them to stay on high alert. The goal is to de-escalate by demonstrating strength. We see your aggression, and we can respond. But the line between signaling and provocation is razor thin. What's meant as deterrence can be misread as preparation for attack. This is the classic security dilemma. Moves meant to stabilize can escalate a crisis. That's why such actions are paired with back-channel diplomacy to avoid misinterpretation. It's a delicate dance on the edge of disaster. Every move is calculated, every signal scrutinized. The stakes could not be higher. At the core of this standoff is second strike capability, the foundation of nuclear deterrence. The logic is simple. If a nation can guarantee devastating retaliation after a first strike, no one dares attack. This is mutually assured destruction, mad. Submarines are the ultimate guarantors. Once submerged, they're nearly impossible to find. Both the US and Russia invest heavily in their fleets to ensure survivability. The Ohio and Borai-class subs are fundamentally defensive, deterring attack by their very existence. If one side could reliably destroy the other's subs, the balance would collapse, risking instability. Anti-submarine warfare is thus a closely guarded secret. The recent US sub movements reinforce second strike doctrine, making deterrence more credible. In nuclear strategy, showing you can end the world is the surest way to prevent its end. The greatest danger isn't always deliberate escalation. It's miscalculation. High alert increases the risk of mistakes. A technical glitch, a misread maneuver, or a stressed officer could trigger disaster. Imagine a Russian sub misinterpreting a US move or vice versa. Seconds could decide the fate of millions. Cyber attacks add another layer, potentially feeding false data and prompting a mistaken launch. That's why military hotlines and open communication are vital, though mistrust can undermine them. The systems meant to prevent nuclear war are only as reliable as the people running them. We are walking a tightrope over an abyss. This US-Russia confrontation sends shockwaves worldwide. For allies in Europe and Asia, US sub movements are both reassurance and a reminder of their vulnerability. Some call for solidarity, others for caution, fearing escalation on their soil. These moves force allies to balance commitments with national interests, exposing coalition tensions. China watches closely, weighing its own ambitions and responses. The crisis is a real-time lesson in great power competition, influencing Beijing's calculations. The world is becoming more polarized and militarized, with arms control treaties framed. Non-nuclear nations may reconsider their security, raising proliferation risks. The silent chess game beneath the waves is reshaping alliances in the global order. As this underwater drama unfolds, the world asks, what's next? Russia will likely respond, deploying more subs, increasing bomber patrols, or staging exercises. Each side will watch for signs of escalation or weakness. The best-case scenario, the US signal is received, tensions cool, and diplomacy quietly restores the status quo. The worst, a tit-for-tat cycle, each move met with a counter, raising the risk of miscalculation. The world could face its gravest crisis since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The movement of these submarines is a barometer of global security and trust. Choices made now will shape arms control, alliances, and global stability. The specter of nuclear confrontation hasn't vanished. It waits, deep beneath the waves. The world holds its breath, watching the most dangerous game.